Honey?
Like 10 minutes sooner, I wouldn't have had to move everything inside.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all wet.
It's actually, what?
All our stuff is wet because it was on the patio when it started raining.
Okay. Love you.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to sell everything and travel the country at the tender age of 50? Well, with our last kid off to college and the ability to now work remotely, we've decided to do just that. So we're selling the house, loading up the dog, and hitting every city from California to Florida. We're scouring the country for a new place to call home and dragging you into every restaurant, Airbnb, and tourist trap we encounter along the way. This is the Skip Town All-Stars podcast. So welcome back, All-Stars. We are excited to do this episode. Well, let's just say I'm really excited to do this episode because I have been wanting to do this episode for probably the last month.
Yep.
I've mentioned it to James, and it's a little, it deviates a little differently from our episodes in the past. You won't notice a difference, but he and I are doing something a little bit different. Normally when we do an episode, we kind of talk about the episode beforehand, because when you visit a place, you sometimes can miss fun facts about it or cool things or total misses. And you want to talk about that, or, you know, he and I want to talk about that. So sometimes we'll even do we'll scratch little notes about the episode, oh, do you remember this? And we have those notes with us just so we don't miss it. Sometimes we don't even hit everything on our notes, but we like to have a little rundown on the show of what we want to discuss. This show's different because he and I don't have a rundown. Basically, what this show is about is what we have learned on the road. And that means what I've learned while traveling and what he's learned. And collectively, we may come up with the same things that we've learned. But this show, I didn't want to know what he learned. And I didn't want him to know what I learned on the road. I kind of wanted it to be a surprise for both of us.
No spoiler alerts for either of us.
Nope. No spoiler alerts. So whatever you hear from me will be the first time he's hearing it. And whatever I hear from him will be the first time I'm hearing it.
Yep. Let's do it.
All right. So one thing I learned about being on the road is this. You need a place to live in order to have car insurance.
Oh, you already blew one of mine.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I picked that one out. Yeah. I said insurance companies do not like nomads.
Oh, no, they don't. So while we were on the road, and I'm just going to talk about our insurance company, which is Mercury Insurance. We had our home and our car insured with them. So we had both policies tied together. We got separate bills, but supposedly got a discount. Who knows? It was astronomical. I don't think we ever got a discount.
No.
But on the road, I had decided that it was probably time. It'd been 2 weeks since the sale of our house. I should cancel my homeowner's insurance. And when I did that, it caused nothing but problems for our car insurance. We did sell 2 of our cars. So when I was canceling my homeowner's insurance, I did want to cancel the insurance for the 2 cars that we no longer owned. We ran into major problems because it's so complicated. Well, guess what? You can't also rent a car if you don't have car insurance. So we're in a rental car and we have car insurance on 3 cars, 2 that were sold in the sale of our house, and 1 car that our daughter has in Utah that we, I think at that point weren't on. It was just, she was on that insurance through Mercury. So right then, as I'm driving with James and he's in the driver's seat, my insurance company wants to cancel our car insurance because we don't have a car, which makes sense because we didn't have a car. We had 1 car that had my daughter's name on it. And they wanted to cancel her because that car wasn't housed at our house anymore because we didn't have a home. So then I said, okay, fine. I'll give you my girlfriend's address. Yeah, Carly, by the way, I was going to give them your address. You have no idea I was going to do that. And then she said, but you're not living there. And she was right because she asked me where I had moved to. And I told her we didn't have a home.
Yeah, we moved somewhere between Seattle and Florida.
Yeah, she didn't like that. She wanted an
She didn't
actual
like that.
concrete address.
Yeah.
So here's what
We're in
I
the
learned.
middle of Zion right now. That's where we live.
Yeah. So here's what I learned. Don't call any insurance companies if you're traveling. It will cause nothing but problems. But as I say that to you, you kind of have to know the rules because, okay, let's say I lied to the insurance company and told them I lived with Carly and Mike and that James and I lived with Carly and Mike. When I rented my car and I showed them an insurance card that was actually a false insurance card, meaning that insurance card was linked to my home that I no longer owned. And I was lying because I wasn't with Carly and Mike living at their house. If I had gotten to an accident in my rental car, that insurance I signed up for would have been null and void because my insurance card wasn't accurate. If I showed them,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
because at that point they haven't even asked me if I wanted additional insurance. They don't ask you that until you're about to step inside the car. Then they pull that like whole, do you want to pay extra for this insurance?
Bumper to bumper, blah, blah, blah.
So the first thing they ask you is, do you have car insurance? Do you understand? Like it just doesn't matter because they would have found out that we really weren't at Carly and Mike's.
To even get to the process of getting the keys to the car, you had to prove that you had your own insurance.
And it's fine.
At an address where you lived.
Right. Because I could have shown them an insurance card that has an address that I no longer live. But if there were an accident, they would have found that information out because insurance companies never want to pay.
Yeah.
Never. Doesn't matter. Like you could get plowed down by a bus and they're still not going to pay your hospital bills. They're horrendous.
Yeah. And side note, we use Anytime Mailbox for our business address. And it's a great virtual mailbox setup. However, it did not give us the coverage that we needed for our insurance company.
No, so
she asked, is this a physical address? And I said, yes, it's a physical address.
And then she immediately looked up that address on the phone and said, no, it's not. It's a mailbox. And I was like, how did she do that? And she's like, I Googled it. I literally go, what are you talking about? She goes, I just Googled it. She goes, it's a mailbox place. Okay, so I did give them an address in California on
where
Burbank
my corporation
Boulevard.
still exists.
And so that woman just like schooled me on the phone immediately and said, yeah, this is not a physical address.
They were just looking for any reason.
And then
to dump
James,
us
of course,
at that
was
point.
like super pissed at me. But I was like, there's nothing I can do. Like I seriously called just to cancel our homeowner's insurance. And I got railed by this woman who
I was pissed at you? Why was I pissed at you?
Oh, you got super sassy with me in the car. You're like, why would you tell her?
Sassy.
You go, why would you tell her like da-da-da-da? And I was like, I'm on the phone with this woman. You can't lie to the insurance company. Like you can, but it won't benefit you. So you have to have a home in order to have car insurance because your car needs to be housed somewhere.
Which seems counterintuitive.
And you need car insurance to rent a car. So all of this to say, Mercury has been calling me every 20 days to cancel me and I won't answer the phone. So now they started calling James.
They did. They emailed me the other day.
So the way I ended that conversation with the insurance woman was, okay, put me on my daughter's car in Utah. That was how I ended it. And then she was hesitant, but did it. And then kept saying to me, we're going to cancel you as soon as your policy's up.
Oh, yeah.
And
I got a letter in the mail. Like January, we're done.
Yeah, and
so
then
we have like 3-4 weeks to figure something out.
And she kept calling me. I've had like so many messages on my phone from this woman, Kathy at Mercury, who wants to know if I own a home yet and if we have a car and blah, blah, blah. And what it's been a mess. So all of that to say, car insurance. You need a house to have car insurance and you need car insurance to rent a car.
And you need to hide from Kathy.
Yep. All right. So the second thing I learned while being on the road is that UPS will not ship alcohol for you, but you can hide a gun in their facility.
Oh my God. You took another one of mine. Are you kidding me? Okay, go ahead.
No, you're going to tell this story.
All right. So I'll lead you in.
No,
it's
you
need
story.
to make the broader point.
It's so your story.
Okay. First off, we went to Second Sight Spirits in Ludlow, Kentucky, down the street from Covington, Kentucky. Thank you, Bert, and thank you, Karis, and thank you, Jenna, everybody for introducing us to Second Sight. The problem with Second Sight is that you can't just order a bunch of stuff for your friends and have it shipped from Kentucky to California, Utah, wherever. So you found that out right away. You asked Karis at Second Sight Distillery about 7 times. Can I mail this?
Can you mail this? Can
I
you
mail
do this for me? Can you just say
How
it's
about
like
if we put it in a package? How about if we put it in a piece of car? How about if we put it in luggage? So the crime committed by Denise was shipping bourbon from Kentucky in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. I brought
to Los Angeles.
Yes. So I brought the alcohol, I brought the bourbon, a few bottles from Kentucky to Oklahoma. And then I decided, 'cause it was on a plane, I'm going to ship it from Oklahoma to Los Angeles. Okay. So third thing I learned while being on the road, Oklahoma has a problem with people shipping weed out of their state.
Weed.
I learned that while being on the road, and this is how I learned it. I got busted at one UPS station for my alcohol. So she saw me packing it up, and I didn't know you can't ship alcohol.
I remember this morning.
And she was like, you can't ship that. And I said, why can't I? She goes, it's illegal to ship alcohol. And I was like, all right, give me some bubble wrap. And she goes, no, it's still illegal to ship alcohol. You cannot ship it. I go, I'm buying bubble wrap. Okay, fine. I'm gonna bring it on the plane with me, which we all knew we weren't flying. Everyone, James and I, we were not flying. If you've been listening to this podcast, we were not flying.
We were on our way to Little Rock.
Yeah. So I said, just give me some bubble wrap. So as I'm walking out the door, the lady at the Oklahoma UPS is yelling out to me, you can't ship that. And I'm like, all right, see ya. I hop in the car and I go a mile down the road to the other UPS, right? So I wrap it up. I have it all ready to go. So when I get to the UPS, nobody is seeing these bottles of alcohol. They asked me 100 questions about this package. They wanted to know what was in it and they wanted specifics. So when she lifted it, there's no way she would have known it was alcohol. But when she lifted it and there was a little weight to it, she said, what's in here? And she goes, is there this, the whole, like, is there lithium? Is it blah, 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 blah? And I was like, no. And she goes, okay, what's in it? And I said, baking supplies. And she said, what? I said, you want to know specifics about the baking supplies? She goes, yep, I want to know what's in it. And I said, a book, some measuring cups, a mixer. Because I'm thinking,
if they X-ray that thing, they would just be.
They don't. No. We already researched it.
I know.
We researched it before we did something else.
Even if she shook the package, she would be like, "That's not a spatula."
Nope, it's fine. It wasn't even moving. So So I had to think of heavy things that would make this box this weight. So I got in the car and I said to James, I don't understand what is going on. Like, I've never been to a UPS in Los Angeles where they ask 100 questions. They literally take the box and my money, and that's it, like in a zip code. Okay. Like, I've never been to a UPS where she wanted specifics. Then I find out Oklahoma has a weed problem with people shipping weed in the mail.
Yep.
And that is why she was asking me 100 questions. She was trying to trip me up, but I know my baking supplies. I know what it takes to bake a cake.
Marijuana brownies, so
I wasn't.
You were fine.
Yeah. So I know what it takes to bake a cake, and I know it takes a mixer, a cookbook. I know it takes some measuring cups. All of that would equal the weight of a couple bourbon bottles.
But you were actually anticipating getting confirmation that those bottles actually arrived in Los Angeles, right? There was a period of 3 or 4 days where you were like, I hope they make it. I hope they make it, right?
A little bit. I mean, I knew they wouldn't x-ray them. So I was pretty confident that they would make it.
Okay.
So there are just 2 things right now that I listed in a row that I learned while being on the road. One is that you cannot ship alcohol to, you cannot ship alcohol.
You cannot, you're not allowed to ship it
and 2,
interstate.
Oklahoma has a weed problem. But going back to the second one, which is UPS, they won't ship alcohol, but you can hide a gun at their shipping facility.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Let me start out by saying you cannot take a weapon over the border of Canada.
We learned that.
And if you're in Seattle, at least in our case, I could not find anybody to securely store our firearm between Seattle and the border of Canada.
Oh, so did we miss that? We mentioned that we did have a gun with us.
Yeah, we've talked in the past about how, despite being a Democrat, I'm actually a gun owner.
Two.
Yeah. And we decided on our trip that we weren't going to take the shotgun,
That's too big.
but we were going to take the 22 pistol.
Mhm.
And if for no other reason, it was just for essential protection to flee. We didn't know where we were going to end up on the road. I think in the end, we were
We're driving across country. Like, you know what, whatever. Like I have no qualms about saying that we wanted to be protected if anything were to happen. That's that simple.
Yeah. But in the end, it ended up being just a piece of luggage that we moved around everywhere we went.
Oh my God.
That we never, ever.
It was like
had
my
any
makeup
cause.
bag. I'm like, do you have my makeup bag? Do you have the gun?
Yeah. Yeah. So we never had to, thankfully, we never had to use it. It's one of those things where it's like, when you need one, you need one. And when you don't, it's just kind of an accessory, I guess. So,
and then we found out that, you know, it was really exciting to go to Canada from Seattle, just a few hours. But guess what?
Yep.
You cannot cross the border.
Well, it was funny
with a
because
gun.
Going back to that episode and that whole trip, I surprised you that morning.
Oh, yeah.
And then after I surprised you and you were getting ready, I surprised myself by remembering that we have a 22 in the car that I can't take across an international border. So
that would be problematic.
I had to start calling around. I called various police stations. I went to a website that told me, hey, these people will store your gun for a fee. And I was like, great. This is perfect. And every place that I called, they were like, no. There was a guy that called. There was a guy at a gun shop that I called.
James got so bent out of shape by this old man. Oh my gosh. He was in our hotel room talking to him and literally was like, ah!
Yeah.
Tell us the story about the
old man. I called
old
up and I
man.
said, hey, so I'm looking to store a firearm for a few days. Do you guys have any sort of storage facility that I can use? And he was like, no, we don't do that. Nobody does that. And he started like going off on me. And when
it was a trigger.
When he got through, it sounded like all the old guys I knew in Ohio that just yelled at you for any reason. When he was finished, I said to him, okay, well, guess what? I'm a grown man and you don't need to talk to anybody like that. And he was like, and I hung up on him. I was like,
he didn't store your gun.
He didn't store my gun.
And he made you mad.
He did make me mad. Anyway, it was one of those things where now all of a sudden it was like we were really pressed because we wanted to leave. We wanted to get there in a certain amount of time. And ultimately, I was able to find a luggage storage service. I won't mention their name because I don't want them to get mad at me. But if you're in a major city, there are places that will store your luggage for you. So if you...
I just said it was UPS.
No, it wasn't a UPS. It was at a UPS facility, but that was not the app that I used.
Oh.
So they find you a place that will hold your luggage. Ultimately, I packed a small suitcase full of clothing and the 22.
And took it to UPS.
Yeah. And it was kind of a thing, really. We dropped it off and we couldn't find a lock. Remember, we couldn't find a luggage lock.
That was awesome. In the city of Seattle.
Yeah. Near the convention center.
He could not find a luggage lock. So he's bringing his luggage there.
Yep.
With some clothes and a 22.
And they gave me a zip tie, but the zip tie they gave me did not fit through the eyelets on the luggage. So I was struggling with it forever. And I finally just said, hey, you know what? Take the bag. I'm good. And so we went on to Canada. We came back. We got through customs on the way back. So we got through customs going to Canada in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We got through customs coming back to the United States in about 3 hours. Or 2.5 hours.
Yep.
That's pretty accurate.
That That is the same as custom in the airport or customs in your car.
Yep.
It is 2 to 3 hours. So
That's-
welcome to America.
That sums up the system, I guess.
Yeah, it's consistent.
Yeah, it is. So, cut to us racing all the way back to Seattle because I was afraid that my expiration was that night. I was supposed to pick it up by closing that night.
How many days did they give you?
48 hours. So I didn't want them just throwing my luggage out the next morning or opening it up or doing something, sending it on to some other facility or something like that. I didn't want to wake up at 7 a.m. We had plans with Ellie, I think, the next day. And so long story short, I raced all the way there. I called them. We were about 2 miles away and they said, no, we're closed. You already missed it. And I decided like a maniac that I was just going to drive up to this UPS store and see if anybody was still there and rattle the doors and see if I can get my luggage back. We pulled up and I pulled open the door while these two girls were just sort of chatting it out at the end of their shift. And they looked at me like, you're interrupting our alone time.
And you were, because it was 7:05 and they closed at 7, but they forgot to lock the door.
They forgot to lock the door. So I got my gun back. The downside was I lost my headphones in that same moment.
Did. So yeah, he was in such a big rush that the headphones were, I think, on his lap and he jumped out of the car.
They were in the little pit on the side of the car door. And when I jumped out, I kicked them out.
Yep. That's what happened.
So
$300
I got the 22
down the drain,
back.
literally.
I got the 22 back and I lost a $300 set of headphones. So good times.
And
the sidebar is you can carry a weapon with you in most states of our country. Just don't try and leave our country.
Okay. So I have another one. And that one is you can't do 53 in a 40.
Oh my gosh. Come on.
So James has a problem with speed. He always has.
I don't.
All right.
It's not a problem.
You just get tickets a lot. And you got one doing 53 and a 40.
Yeah. I was a little over the limit.
So we both learned that I was on my on my phone in the passenger seat, and we both learned that cops don't really want you to do 53 in a 40. Yeah. So I also learned that sometimes the best barbecue joints are inside a gas station.
That's a good one. Yeah. That happened. I forget the name.
Joe's.
Slovacek's, Joe's. On my hat right now.
Kansas
if you're
City,
watching the YouTube.
Slovacek's, amazing. It's kind of crazy.
Buc-ee's. Pretty decent barbecue.
Yeah. So,
not bad.
So don't poo-poo gas station barbecue because it could be the best barbecue you've ever had.
I would say still stay away from gas station sushi.
It's a good tip.
Hey listeners, are you traveling a bunch and tired of slogging to the post office to deal with your snail mail? Maybe you're looking to keep your small business mail from going to your home so you can look more professional. Or you're possibly looking to just raise your profile with an address in the most desirable part of the city. Whatever the case, Anytime Mailbox is a service app that allows you to have your mail delivered to a virtual mailbox and so much more. In the Anytime Mailbox app, you can choose to scan, recycle, shred, or even forward your mail, or perhaps even get that check you've been waiting on deposited directly into your bank account, even if you're halfway across the world. Head on over to skiptownallstars.com/anytime and learn how a few $100 a year can give you the peace of mind when dealing with all your red tape and snail mail needs. That's skiptownallstars.com/anytime. Now, on with the show.
Okay, so those are a few, because I have such a long list, but those are the few of mine. Tell me some of yours.
Okay, well, my first one is mine. I actually waxed philosophical on a lot of these, but my first one is if you're relocating, especially the way we did it, where we had no special destination, not everyone is happy for you. We had a lot of support from a lot of friends. We had some people who were sad that we were leaving, but I could tell in some of the reactions before we even left LA, a lot of people thought we were idiots for doing what we were about to do.
Yeah, because in any situation, you always reflect on how it is in your life, like how it reflects on you or how you feel about it or how you would handle the situation. So we're doing something kind of unconventional, and it makes people very uneasy who are doing something very conventional.
Yeah. So I think that off the beaten path thing really sort of raises a lot of people's awareness to think that maybe we are intellectually stunted in some way, shape,
They're
or form.
probably right.
We are financially irresponsible when it comes to the legacy that we're going to leave behind for our
they
children.
definitely think that. There's no question about it. They think
Our
that
kids have actually brought that up.
I think our kids think we're going to leave them penniless.
Yeah.
They've mentioned it more than once.
Yeah. They said, so our inheritance, like what's going on? And I just,
all of them have said that.
Yeah. But if anything, it's a lesson to them that we are taking the bull by the horns finally in our lives. Like I just, for me personally, it's weird because I felt like not just that I wanted to do it, but I deserved it for being in a little box all those years in Hollywood or in, various offices around the LA region, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, sitting in my car, an hour each way. I feel like I had given up so much mobility just because I wanted to do what I did for a living. And when everybody could start working remotely, I just felt like, frankly, I was entitled to it. I had already cut my teeth all those years. Well, what I've learned is not everybody's happy that you're leaving LA.
I think that is accurate. I think, again, it's a reflection on their staying back.
Yeah.
And your life is changing. And anytime I think you have a friend or a family member whose life changes, and a move is a big change. I always say there's like 3 really big points of your life. It's a birth, a death, and a wedding. I think a move can be number 4.
I think so.
I think it's pretty big.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It makes everyone around you say, like, should I move? Like, why are they moving? Like, what's better? Are we missing something, or are they crazy?
Yeah, it's weird because you make this decision for yourself and it's a major life decision. But for whatever reason, a lot of people see it as, they're viewing themselves through a mirror. When you say, I'm doing X, Y, Z, they instantly hold up a mirror to themselves and say, could I do that? Or why would I want to do that? Or that's crazy that they would want to do that,
That's a really good observation, the mirror thing. Yeah, that is, I mean, I look, I agree. I said, like, it makes people reflect on what their choices are in their lives. But you're right. It really is like they hold up a mirror, because it's so funny. People will immediately give you their opinion about it.
Yeah.
And we didn't ask. Yeah.
And if you go back to our first couple episodes, I mean, we made it a point to say, we lived in LA for 26 years. Like, we don't hate everything about this city.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are plenty of things that we like and that we'll miss and all that stuff. And I think some of those first couple episodes was derivative of some of the reactions that we got from people.
Yeah.
When we were sitting and talking with them, and however accepting, I guess, for lack of a better word, they were with our decision to leave.
So what do you think your perception on, let's put it in a percentage, like percentage of people that were happy when you told them, percentage of people that weren't, just your
70 happy, 30 not.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I even had coworkers, and I kind of get it. Like, okay, so this is going to go into my second point. But I did have, coworkers that were like, why would you leave? Like, where are you going to go? You're going to end up in some podunk state or town or whatever, red state, blue state. You're going to end up somewhere else, totally unlike where you're living now. Like, why would you leave here with all of its problems? It's still, California is still viewed as like this sort of Mecca, or, it really is the Golden State,
It's where people aspire. A lot of people aspire to live.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but a lot of people, like, they dream of moving, the dream of moving
especially
to California.
in my industry. Yeah. It's like, it's
You're right.
the place.
Especially in your industry.
If you want to be here, if you want to be in this business, you should be in LA,
Mm-hmm.
maybe New York,
Right.
maybe Chicago.
But LA is where it's at,
yeah.
for sure. I mean, for production,
Yeah.
a majority of it.
But I think
Okay, so
this goes into my second point, though. And I think some of that 30% was based off of the fact that I work in a very diverse environment, and there are plenty of Asians, Black folks, Mexicans, you name it, whatever nationality other than white boy like me, other than straight up gringo, that would never move to Idaho City, or that would never move to, somewhere outside of Salt Lake, like rural Utah or something like that, And I think and so the other thing that I learned on the road was I figured it out maybe by our third or fourth state that because we're white, we just have this built-in thing where we can just pick up and go wherever we want. And if you're a Black man with young kids, you may not be so inclined to go to some of the states that we've visited,
Yeah, I had a listener ask me, listener and also a friend, Nicole, ask me, she actually sent me a message and said, is it dangerous? Because she's white. She's on a lot of Facebook groups. She's a mom. She's on African American Facebook groups too with other moms. And she did ask me, she goes, is it really true that it's dangerous for Black people to travel across the country? Would you recommend it? And I had to text her back and say, I would never recommend it. Like,
I think there are probably a few
it's
areas
insane
where,
to say that,
that we've
but it's
been through where you're right. And even, when I was in LA, there was a coffee shop near the one office where I worked. And it was an Asian guy who owned the coffee shop. And we got to talking one morning, and I mentioned that Parker was going to Boise State. And he was like, Idaho, you're going to Idaho to visit her? Like, I would never go there. I could never go there. And it was really funny to me because it was like Boise is kind of a melting pot in the middle of a Red
it's a
Sea,
little town. Mm-hmm.
but it's a campus town.
It is.
So there are plenty of Asian kids, plenty of Black kids, plenty of,
Mexican
LBTQ,
kids,
you name
gays,
it, it's
right,
like
exactly. Totally.
inside Boise, it's fine. It's a bubble. Everything's, whatever. But, just the fact that this guy was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to Idaho. It like made me think. And, at that time, but then being out on the road, it's like I've actually noticed it in some of our social media interactions. People of color or of a particular sexual affiliation or whatever are more inclined, frankly, to like the posts that happen in blue states rather than red states.
That?
A little bit. Yeah.
That's
like
funny.
there are people that come out of the woodwork and say, hey, oh my gosh, this is so great you're doing that. But they wouldn't do it for Texas, I didn't have a lot of feedback on certain posts or whatever in Texas, and I'm not huge on social media. So, but just my,
your observation,
like a little bit of feedback here and there. Like I know there was probably when we started out, I had the really good camera and I shot some video of Idaho City, the lake. I keep coming back to that because it was like, I felt like that particular trailer landed with a thud because nobody was interested in Idaho City. They were like, there's no damn way I'm going up into the mountains of Idaho. And,
yeah, I guess unless like you're white and you're a man, because I'm like, what woman do I even know that would want to live in Idaho City? I mean, I didn't. But if I guess you're a certain demographic, like you like the mountains, you like the outdoors. Yeah. I mean, there are, of course, certain women that would like that, but it's really a very, I think, male-based type of lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a lot of hiking, hunting, skiing, all that stuff.
They don't call it mountain man for nothing.
They don't. I could have totally lived there. But
you totally could have.
You weren't going to live there with me. There wasn't a grocery store close enough.
No, there was not.
But anyway, that's just something I've learned kind of in our travels,
that you can't be Black and travel across the country.
You can.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous.
But I think that, there's a little bit of remorse there for me that certain people would not be as inclined to do what we've done.
Oh, for
and
sure.
It's just because of the way the world is and the way our country is specifically.
No, it goes back to, and we've talked about this, like built-in white privilege that you don't realize you have as a white person until you're experiencing it. You really don't realize it. Like Like I said this to you, like there are people I've talked to about before we left that I was like, oh, we're going to travel across the country. And there are people of color that I've said this to that just looked at me because their idea of traveling across the country is not the same
Yeah.
as you and I. Like for them, it could be risky.
Oh, for sure. Even in a city like Seattle, where it's like I take my piece of luggage in and I got a 22 in there. If they would have cracked that open, then I would have been in trouble.
Oh,
But if I were a black man, I would have been in a lot more trouble.
yeah,
Right.
right.
Even if I was a registered owner.
Yeah, for sure.
So
For sure. So
you know.
we have that white privilege luxury that we inherently can exercise and not even realize we're exercising it just by getting in a car and driving across the country.
Yeah, and I think it's important to just note that. It's like as our trip went on, I realized like not everybody can do it, but not everybody's going to feel comfortable doing it, you know?
Oh, for sure. And I particularly don't think everyone should do it. I don't
Yeah,
think
it's a
I don't
sin.
I don't
It's a
I mean look,
crime.
if you are now we're getting off topic again, but if you are black and you get pulled over for a traffic violation in a city like Los Angeles and it is could be a life and death situation over a broken taillight, can you imagine traveling across the country in the middle of nowhere and getting pulled over
A
where
53 and a 40 in Oklahoma probably would have resulted in a
something else?
ticket. I got a ticket, but the cop was cool. And he basically said, I'm going to give you 50 in a 40 instead of 53. So that way you don't get points on your license. I
But
think
let's be honest about it. If you were a black man, one, he would have made you get out of the car. Two, like he would have like probably had you put like your hands on the car.
I don't want to generalize, but when he told me, my hands were on 10 and 2, and then he said, okay, you can put your hands down. It's cool or whatever. I want to think that this particular cop, he just, I don't know, my vibe from him. I don't think he would have frisked a black man. Like he didn't give me that vibe at all. Maybe it's different because I'm white, but my theory is he would have definitely gotten the ticket where it would have gone on his license and
He would have been treated differently.
definitely.
Okay. I think it would have been more different than what you think, just from everything I've read and seen and know.
Maybe.
But I mean, I don't know. So to go back, like I wouldn't tell anybody of color to travel across the country. I think it's too risky. That's my thoughts.
I don't really feel like we have to tell people of color or any specific ethnicity to do it or not to do it. I think it's ingrained in them. Like, don't do that,
No, I know.
So,
But I just am saying, like, I think it can be dangerous. That's all.
yeah, I would agree. I would definitely agree.
I don't know. I don't ever hear any black people say I'm taking a road trip across country.
I don't really ever hear that. Like, anyway, so that's my number 2. So my number 3 is New Mexico is neck and neck for the poorest state in the nation. I did not really ever consider that, but because of the Indian reservations, the immigrant population, since it is right on our country's border, and general, I guess, apathy when it comes to the economy.
That's a good word.
The people in charge are in charge. The people who are not in charge kind of don't care. And so what you get is a ton of undereducated children year in, year out.
I was really surprised that it was one of the poorest. What is the poorest state?
I'm pretty sure it's actually New Mexico. The other one would be, I think, Mississippi.
Oh, yes, that was it. When we found out that stat about New Mexico, we were both in shock.
It was tough to
That's a good
digest
one.
because we love Santa Fe so much. Although I knew that, you have to fly into Albuquerque, which is only 2 some hours away. Everything goes through Albuquerque in terms of shopping. And, if you really want to go to the great outlet malls and all that stuff, you got to go down to Albuquerque.
I don't think Albuquerque is 2 hours away.
Is it? I think it is 2 or 3. It's within 3 hours.
Can I see? I just want to, I need to know.
But, it was,
I thought it was an hour.
Well, maybe it's less then. While you're looking, it was weird because the land really was enchanting. Like there's a reason they call it the land of enchantment. But to see that sort of poverty around the outskirts of Santa Fe.
Hour and 2 minutes.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see that sort of abject poverty everywhere outside of the municipal area. was sort of difficult. And the fact that it was stagnated for generations, you know.
Yeah, that was really like very hard to wrap your head around, because you're in this beautiful state where you see money available. People are making money, but then it's generation of families not.
So moving on to the next one, I would say the one thing that I did not anticipate was that making a podcast while on the road is a tremendous amount of work for you.
Yep.
For me, we, you know, you guys never ever see it, but we have to edit out every time the dog wants a drink of water in the middle of it. There are times where it's like roll tape and we're starting and we're going. And I'm like, you know, halfway into an episode and I'm like, this is great. This is rolling. I'm not going to have to edit that much. And just for whatever reason, it always becomes a little bit of work toward the end. So, but lugging the gear back and forth, the YouTube channel, which we appreciate. And I still am in disbelief that people want to watch us. Like, I can't believe, look at me. I can't believe you're watching me right now, you know? But
funny.
I'm grateful. Did you ever expect that?
No. In fact, when we first did our very first podcast in LA and we did it just as a test, I mean, we didn't even tell our kids about it. We told 0 people about it. We just did it as a test. It was an idea from a friend and we did it as a test. And we just shot it on cameras because we had them. And James was like, well, what the heck? I have the cameras.
Yeah.
Let's shoot it with these cameras. There's good audio on the cameras. Let's like, you know, whatever. I don't know the technical stuff, but he was like, let's use the cameras. So then we did the first episode with a camera. And then we thought, okay, so we'll do the second episode because we had the cameras. So why not just whatever? Because it was part 1 and part 2. So we're like, let's do the second episode, part 2 with the cameras. Then the third and fourth episodes, we like just chucked the cameras. Like we were like, okay, well, we're not going to really use the cameras. But then what started happening was that, because it's a podcast.
Yeah.
So then people would text us or send us messages and say, do you have a YouTube channel? And we did have a YouTube channel. Yeah. But we just had it in case. Like we just thought
we just did an image and some waveform.
Yeah.
You know.
And then we thought, well, maybe we'll throw some images up on the YouTube or some videos of our travels or something but then people started asking. So then I said to him,
I'm still in disbelief.
I know. I said, we have to start recording this because people are asking if we have a YouTube channel. And he was like, are you serious? Yeah. And I was like, I'm dead serious. He was like, who wants to look at us? I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah. And that's really, I mean, the genesis of, you know, trying to use those cameras in the second Salt Lake episode. I mean, I just like my camera bag is so heavy, you know, and taking that up 6 flights or whatever.
I've actually taken photos of our setup. So if you're interested to see what the setup looks like, you can check back in the Instagram feed. I do post photos of what the setup looks like, and I'll do it again. I'll do it for this one just so you can see it. But, you know, we have lots of lights. There are 3 cameras with 3 big tripods, 2 microphones, as you can see. It's a lot of work. So take that coupled with the weight of everything. I mean,
and doing it like while we were on the road, it's going to get better next year because
Tell me how.
I don't know.
How is it going to get better?
I mean, it's not going to get any, like we'll be bouncing from place to place less because, you know, fun fact, I actually start work tomorrow. I'm like back, like, you know, I kicked it and had a couple beers earlier today because it's sort of my last day of freedom before I go back to a job. And so,
but you have been working while we've been podcasting too.
Yeah. I mean, I had the Magnolia show and I did flooring for our house.
No, but you, besides Magnolia, wasn't there another show you were working on?
No, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's been mostly the pod. So, you know, but, I think, you know, lugging the stuff, like
you didn't realize how hard.
I did not realize because we were bouncing around like every 4 days, and obviously you can't leave this stuff in the van overnight.
No,
you're
you
an
cannot.
idiot if you do that. So, So it was like whether or not we were actually shooting something, I still had to bring all the
I
gear
know.
into the
I
house.
helped you. I know.
And into the hotel or the Airbnb or whatever. Of course you did.
The
but-
hotel was horrible because you have to go up like
Yeah.
flights of stairs or sometimes an elevator, and you had to wait with all the gear. And it just
I remember Vancouver specifically, where it was like we had that stupid little dolly with 3 wheels. I had all the gear and all our luggage on it, and the dog was like leading it like she was a reindeer, tied to it with the leash. But
good times.
but anyway, I didn't realize how much work it was going to be. Like y'all wanted video, and that's cool. I can like if our normal episode is like an hour 15 or an hour long, and it was just audio, it would take me about an hour 15 to cut the episode, whereas with video, it takes me about 3 hours to get Denise's beautiful face smiling, her reactions when I say something stupid. It's like we try and bounce back and forth. It's just all like, I'm not bitching about the process at all. It's like, it's great that we have people that actually want to engage with us and see us talking. I'm just saying it's an extra wrinkle that, like, I learned this on the road, that it's a lot of work to pull that off when you're in a particular place 3 days here, 4 days there. So I'm looking forward to actually working remotely. The whole thrust of this podcast was for us to kind of tell people like, oh, we're going to Savannah in January. We'll be there for a month, and we're going to dig into every little nook and cranny we can find and really flesh out a place like Savannah, while we're working and still do the podcast. So the real Skip Town experience is coming. Trust me.
Which is what we've been doing, I thought.
Well, we've been I don't know. I think we were like hippies for the last couple of months. We were just like road tripping, and we like this place and we like that place, but it's actually going to be a real like work, live experience in these cities now.
Okay.
You don't think?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I thought this whole time
It just feels like less of a road trip coming up.
Oh, got it.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like the road trip was like, oh, we did glamping in Zion, but 2 days later we're in
we
Sedona.
we threw in some things that we wanted to see, but
and we weren't working. Like neither of us
we were still looking like
we were screwing off. We were totally screwing off all over the country.
But we were still looking like, could we live here?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you're right. It's like finding our next hometown is the thrust of the podcast. I'm just saying we will, spend actual time in cities.
So our trips
future.
are going to be longer, is what you're saying.
Our trips are going to be longer, and hopefully I'll be lugging the equipment around a little bit less. Yeah.
Yeah. We have to like scale down. I mean, I from what I've been researching and hearing, there are actual podcast studios in certain cities where we could rent them.
Oh yeah.
But then no one would see this beautiful background.
I know.
And like, because everywhere we go, it's always a different background.
There's a plant.
Yeah.
Right there. My background's not so beautiful today. It's just a gray wall.
Yeah, but usually like when we shoot it, it's like always in a different location. So I don't know if people get like, oh, I don't want to see a studio. I want to continue to see a location. So I don't know. We'll see.
We get comments though. We get messages where they're like, oh, this is good, especially because it's an old episode. Like they knew where we were and what we were wearing on a particular set.
Really?
Like, yeah, there was there
so
have been one or
funny.
two comments where they're like, oh, this is a throwback episode, but it's still poignant or something. Like I'm paraphrasing, obviously.
But we haven't done a throwback episode yet at all.
But there were a couple episodes like we did Traveling with Your Partner in Sedona.
Yeah.
And people knew when that podcast dropped
because
that was an old episode.
We
like
shot
old
that
per
while
se.
we were in
Yeah.
Sedona, and
Yeah.
we aired it though. We like actually dropped it like month later.
Yeah,
so
at least
yes,
a month.
because it's right because the
And
location
people were like,
was
oh,
a
this is
hotel.
great, even
Yeah,
though
you
it's
guys-
still,
yeah, okay.
I'm sure some people were like, are they still traveling well together and all that other stuff?
We are
But anyway, we are. So
sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. So that's going to be, that's my next one. So
All right.
I
What's your next one?
realized, traveling that we talked about Bert Stewart earlier. And when I interviewed Bert Stewart, the very first interview I did with him on Zoom, he had a comment that totally went past me at that point, but he just said, I've been looking to retire since I was 5 years old. Right?
Mhm.
Something like
That was
that.
my quote that I had for him on
Yeah.
Facebook because I thought that was the most brilliant quote. Like, wow.
Yeah. And so I missed it at the time. It was a perfect time to insert a joke or a response or something. And it just like, it went past me, I think, because I was so nervous. It was our first interview. But I wish I could be more like that. And I'm not always like that. There were a couple moments on the road, even in Mexico, where, frankly, I was just a little uptight and not enjoying everything the way I should have been enjoying it. And reflecting back on it, I think it's like managing the family, managing the podcast. I think if I am not mindful, that it's easy for me to go into this headspace where it's like, oh, this is all too much. This is all too much. This is all too much for me. Instead of enjoying the process, it's easy for me to not take things day by day, And if I zoom out and start looking at the big picture, I've noticed, especially while we're traveling a couple times, that I, start thinking about big picture issues. It's as if the people back in LA who thought I was an idiot for doing this are speaking to me. You know what I mean? It's like, there's just no other way to say it. And I'm like, I have these moments where I'm like, I can't say that I'm having, I don't feel like I'm faking it or anything like that. But I do have moments where I feel like, am I being the best steward right now for the legacy, for our family and all that stuff? And so, I get uptight about stuff like that. And it's weird to me. I think it's just the nature of like growing up poor and not wanting to be poor again. There are financial reasons that I get uptight. There are logistical reasons that I get uptight, and it's weird. It's like the few times where it's erupted, I look back on that and I'm like, what the hell's the problem? Like, you're out, your kids are like grown and successful, like they're off on their own lives, and you've got a lovely wife, and
Thanks.
I get like, I get a little in my head. It's weird.
No, you've always been like that. I mean, it's true.
Oh my God.
I mean, I've said it to you that you stand in the way of your own success and your own happiness and your own fun.
I don't really stand in the way of my own success. Like, that's a driver for me. I don't feel like I stand in the way of my own success.
Okay,
but
so
I do stand in the way of my own happiness sometimes. I'll give you that.
He and I come from completely two separate places with the way we were raised. His family always struggled financially. Mine did not. So when it's funny, I just said success and you interpret that as money. I do not interpret that as money. For me, when I said success, like you stand in the way of your own success, I mean like life success, like what you find fulfilling. Because like I remember when I owned a business, someone said to me, what do you think, what do you consider success? And I said, having a receptionist. I never once said making $200,000 a year or having a Range Rover. Like that to me it's never about money for me, but that's because I was raised with money. I never had a problem. Like somebody asked me the other day, so did you have like a privileged life? And my brother said something, he said something like, I don't know, like he didn't say we had a privileged life because he didn't think
So you guys were fine.
Yeah, he said we were
like
fine.
That.
And I would say that's a good answer. Like we never needed anything. But your lifestyle was completely different. So when I say like that you've always been like that, like how you are, like you described yourself perfectly. I don't know, like I've seen it on the road, obviously. I don't know how to help you. I mean, because we've talked, I mean, like I know talking to you doesn't help. And I mean that like in the most kindest way, but like I've been with you long enough to know that a therapy session from me isn't going to work out his problems. So I don't do that anymore. But I do feel bad that you struggle with yourself because it really is a struggle with you. Well, and there's nothing I can say. You know how I live my life. I literally live it day by day. And this is something that
you've always been that person. And that's been great. Like first off, I don't think it's a wife or husband's job to fix whatever.
No, but it is very helpful to have a partner that you can
I'm just happy you understand me
talk
and
to,
how my head
and
works.
that like, but I think it's a shame sometimes that, it happened, that this is and this is a constant struggle for you. I mean, this is not just something on the road, but I think you've probably seen it. I think also editing the show, you see it also probably when you're editing the show. And like, my guess is how you're interpreting what you see on the cameras and what you hear in your headphones when you're editing yourself. My
Maybe.
guess is like you probably hear some of that. I don't know. That's
Well,
tough.
I mean, the thing is,
I feel badly because I don't struggle with the same thing you do, but I'm sure there are people who are going to say right now, well, you're not the breadwinner. But I always made really good money.
you do. You still, I mean, you've always been able to flip a switch and just, make it happen. I mean, there was a period of time back in the late 2000 or like early 2000s or whatever, where I was ill and you just figured it out. Like I was down for 3 months and you were able to keep the house over the roof over our head and all that other stuff. So that's like, I'm fortunate. I have a partner, who can do that. That's never been in it. So whoever says, oh, well, you're not the breadwinner, obviously doesn't know how much you can make in cosmetics in America.
No, they do not.
So,
they have no clue.
I mean, there have
how
been
much money I
days
can
where
make.
Denise has worked half the time as me and made, twice as much.
It is true. That literally, I've come home like
yeah,
in
like
4
when you're
hours and I
rolling,
made
you're rolling.
double what he
And
made
it's
in
like,
one
I
day.
mean,
and he's still working.
I was looking forward to you being my sugar mama back in LA if we had not sold the house.
But I do wonder, it goes back to the breadwinner thing, because you have, no matter how much money I make, he's always made more than me because I have devoted myself to the family. And that's just the truth. Like,
Yeah.
if he wanted to devote himself to the family, I would have made more than him. So, my day ends at a certain time. It always did. And then I'd be with the family. So where my income stops, his would continue. So he has always made more than me. So I wonder if some of this stems from that, though. Like, you have these worries because in your head, you're like, I have to still feed this family. I'm the
I was just going
provider.
to say.
So I think there's some of that, and that's fair. I mean, that's absolutely fair.
Well, you brought it up earlier where you said, I don't like success to me is, having a receptionist. I don't say I need to make 200,000 or whatever. I don't say that either. Mine is not about material or having a great car or, like I want a huge house. I'm not going to lie. Like I want to be able to play my guitar as loud as I freaking want, and nobody's going to say a peep because, the next neighbor is like, 2-3 acres away, like I want that. It's a security thing growing up where I grew up. Like I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio in the 70s. I've seen my dad I saw my dad basically buckle when he had to stand in a cheese line to get us food.
Mm-hmm.
I saw workers get locked out on Black Monday. I don't know, almost 100,000 workers, whatever it was. Because all of their jobs were immediately shipped overseas, and so I'm getting better about it, but I'm not 100% there yet. But one thing that's made me feel better about it is that all our girls are off doing their thing. And it was like in many ways, they're wind-up toys where it's like you and I invested as much knowledge and bullshit that we could put inside them. We wound them up and they're out there walking, and they're all like, they have their ups, they have their downs, just like normal human beings, but they're all like chasing their dreams and chasing their goals. And they're all going to be successful in their own rights, whatever it is they choose. So that's great. And that helps me. But I just come from an environment where you're always waiting for the other shoe to fall, and it's never a good shoe, So that part is a little difficult. Like I'm not going to lie, there were times when we were on the road where I said, like, I had moments where I'm like, you don't deserve this. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? Like this is, so for me, it's never about things or material things. It's about security. And am I making the most secure decision for my children, for my wife? Like, hopefully it's a long time in the future, but you never know how life works out. And it's just like, even this house that we have here in Florida now, it's like, it's great to know that like you're taken care of if anything ever happens to me, you know? And like you have a mortgage on this place where it's like, if you wanted to be here for the rest of your life, you can cover that mortgage until the thing's paid off. Like you totally make enough money to like, you're set, you know? And so, this goes into the next thing I learned on the road. And that is I need to find a new purpose. Like I have kids off to college and I have, you know, a wife who has put in her work and is, you know, now enjoying her life, living next to her brother and all that. I need to find my thing and I haven't figured that out.
Okay.
You know?
I love you. Aw.
So,
well, I
don't know what that is. Like I've always wanted to teach. I've always I think I would be a good coach.
I know, but this goes back to,
Stuff like that.
think that you stand in the way of like you. And I've said
Maybe.
this, like,
Yeah.
what is it that you want to do? Like, I don't know. I think to myself, like,
I want to be in a rock and roll band, but I don't think that's going to happen for me at this point in my life. Like,
there's certain dreams you got to let go. There's certain
I
dreams
will
you got to let
never
go.
let it go.
But I think that we're like you and I are both physically able-bodied. Okay,
Yeah.
we have that going for us. Like that's number one. Secondly, we're both smart. Like we both know how to make money. We're both hard workers. And, you know, you don't have to be college educated to be like an entrepreneur
Absolutely not. I totally agree with that.
Or to be like creative and crafty and like make a good living.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy in LA right now with 4 plumbing trucks that's making twice the money that I ever made.
Okay, so figure out, I mean, I've said this over and over again. If you have the means, then you should be able to do it. And, you know, look, we sold our house, we've been traveling, but you're still working, you've still been bringing in an income. So we do have like the means for you to like figure out what your purpose is. We've had this discussion and it's like, for some reason, you're scared to do it. And
I feel like I'm too young to totally relax and feel retired because I'm not retired.
Okay.
You know? So it's not like I just kick back and go golfing every morning.
Here's the thing. Do you want to do that? Do you want to retire?
No.
Okay. So you already know you don't want to retire.
I'm not ready.
Okay. So you already know that you don't want to retire and you're not ready. Okay. So then the next thing is like, what do you want to do? What do you enjoy? If you like to teach, then go teach. Figure out a way to go teach.
Yeah, something. I mean, I need to figure out what it is. It just
does it go back to though, you don't feel like you deserve this second thing? Like you don't deserve to be something new?
It's weird. I mean, honestly,
you can be new
it's like,
any day.
Let's look at 2022 and just everything. Like it's still not over as a year. It's December, the beginning of December.
Okay.
There have been so many things that this family has done or been through. We've been to,
I know it's true.
We counted like 16 different states, 3 different countries. And we went to Dubai earlier this year before we ever took a road trip, you know, and
so do you need a minute?
Probably. It's just, again, and it's like, I've talked about this with one particular friend, my friend Paul, who's super insightful. And it's just, the brain cannot handle when things are open-ended. Like if you zoom out and think about the big picture and what your life means or what you're going to be doing 5 years from now, it's great that people, you know, make their 5-year plan or whatever. And
I never made a 5-year plan.
Me neither. I was horrible at that. But it's great that people can do that, but everybody knows it's like so much shit goes off the rails between year 1 and year 5, and you could still end up where you wanted to end up.
You could be divorced, remarried, 3 kids. Like, are you kidding me?
Totally.
Yeah, I think that's so stupid.
I know, but all I'm saying is
those don't work. So your friend Paul was saying that doesn't work. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, he's like, stop zooming out, just be in the moment. And
Oh,
That's
honey.
super difficult for me. I
Oh,
cannot do
honey.
that. Like, I'm totally like, okay.
You've never been able to be in the moment. You've never. I've been with you for
I'm always on to the next
25
thing.
years.
I'm
You
always like,
have
okay,
never-
check that off. Now let's
You
do
can't
this.
even watch a movie without being on your phone. You can't even be in the moment then.
Oh, no. I mean, look, I finished the flooring in the other bedroom the other day, and immediately I was like, okay, I'm going to take like a 6-hour break, and then I'm going to put the TVs up, you know? And so it's like, I got to get TVs in every room.
Okay, so here's how I live my life. I look around and I see all possibilities all the time. Like I really
You do.
Like I
Yeah.
think like, ooh, I could start a bathing suit store. Ooh, I can start a tennis shoe store. I see all possibilities. Do you not think you're worthy of those possibilities? Do you ever see possibilities or just see work? Because you've always been a worker bee, like a worker bee. So do you ever see anything?
Oh, I do. I mention business ideas to you all the time. Like, this would be great.
Okay, the difference between mentioning it and actually
Like our
doing
tow
it.
truck company.
Okay, right. But that's
The
just
all gay
that's just
tow
talk.
truck company.
Yeah, the all gay tow truck company. I know it's just talk. But could you do it? Like we can all talk. Like, do you feel like what do you feel?
It's, I don't know. It's just, it's all cloudy at the moment. You know, it's all cloudy. I don't know where I want to, like, I have so many possibilities right now. I don't know which one to seize upon. And that's really where I am at the moment. That's the God's honest truth.
And so being on the road has made that more, that's your mirror.
It's
Is that your
weird.
mirror? Has the road been your mirror?
A bit,
Okay.
but it's weird because between the podcast and traveling and like, oh, we need to book this place and that, like that gave me something to do. So being on the road was actually the best thing for me. You know, it was like I had all these little like, oh, 3 hours to this place, 4 hours to that place, like all that stuff. Like I had targets.
Accomplishments.
I have no target right now. It's like other than we're going to LA for the holidays. And we're going to hang with the kids, and that's fine. Like holidays, I can like unplug and
You need a project. Like you need like
I do like the flooring, like the this, the that, like everything, that I've done around. Like if I don't have, it's weird. I feel functionless if I don't have some sort of thing to set my sights on, and I really am fucking terrible at relaxing,
You are terrible. at
I'm
relaxing,
really
for
bad
sure.
at it.
That's why we got the timeshare.
I know. I thought about that. And like when you talked about that in the last episode or whenever that
Yeah, it was
was,
the last episode.
yeah. I was like, damn, she forced me to like take time off, and
It was,
like,
forced vacation.
it was
Twice a week. Or I'm sorry, 2
twice
weeks
a year. Yeah. 2 weeks out of the year. And it was great. I mean, I look back on all those trips and it's like etched in my memory, we went on so many trips that I forget who came with us on which trip,
It's
like
true.
which year was which year. I know I took my niece and nephew one year. You took your niece and nephew, like all that stuff. But I don't know. Anyway, so I can't say I learned that about myself on the road, but since we landed here and started
Well, you did have that
rehabbing this place-
listed as one of the things you've learned on the road.
Yeah. But I mean, did I always know it? I guess it just has it like fully revealed itself now.
It fully revealed itself on the road.
Yeah. So I think it's a thing I need to work on. And I apologize for the times I was testy because of it. I
It's
really am
okay.
sorry.
It's all right. It's okay.
All the listeners get to see, us and jokey and funny, and they don't get to see the times where I'm just a complete asshole. And so I'm really sorry.
It's
But,
okay.
It's
It's okay.
it's
all
like
right.
I think there were probably episodes where they're like, oh, he's so hunky dory, and it's like they don't know me at all, right?
Well, what's the saying? Like you don't really know the person because you don't live with them.
Right.
So, I mean, look, I was going to say I've probably been a nightmare on the road, but I haven't. No, I
No,
mean,
you
I've
weren't.
Had,
You
I've
you
had moments,
absolutely
I'm
weren't.
sure.
It's weird because it was like, I mean, it was like, okay, so this is so stupid, but we were riding in the golf cart the other day and I put my arm around you and you started laughing so hard. And it's so stupid, but it was like, that's how I felt the entire time you and I were on the road together. I'm just like, I'm out here with my girl and my dog and everything's cool, you know, and it's like, life is good. And then we got here and it was a little bit like adulting had to happen, you know,
a little bit.
and that was like a kick in the nuts. But, you know, I feel, I don't know. It's so funny because it's like, if I ever write a book, it's going to be called House Money, because I feel like I'm just playing with house money at this point in my life. Like where I grew up and where I came from, nobody would expect, you know, to have this sort of journey that I've had, you know.
I know. I get it.
It's like even working or whatever,
I
like
get it, yeah.
even though I felt like, oh, I got to drive to work and sit in traffic and do.
You were very successful and you still are.
But-
Like you are a successful editor.
Thank
and
you.
It's true.
But, you know, it's kind of like, you know, meanwhile, it's like I probably have a second cousin or something somewhere who's showing up to the same factory day in and day out, you know, and I don't know. It's like, it's funny though. Is ignorance bliss?
I know it's this whole like, do we think you deserve it thing? Like,
But
you worked very hard. Nothing was handed to you.
I guarantee there are like, you know, like there's a Mexican fisherman out there somewhere who's loving life, even though he's doing the same
you're
damn
right.
thing every
Yeah,
day.
You're absolutely right.
That whole parable.
yeah.
And it's like,
You've got to love your life.
I do when I stop and think about it, you know, but it's weird. It's like, why do I jump to the next thing? You know, it's not like bright, shiny object. It's just like, okay, check that off the list. Now it's time to do this, you know, and that's kind of who I am, you know. I got to work on that. I don't know. I'm just like, that's why when you ask me point blank, like, are you ready to retire or like you done or whatever? It's like, hell no. Like, no. Like, what would I do?
You have a lot to do. You still have a lot that you want to do.
I do have a lot that I want to do.
Okay.
A lot with this podcast, a lot with our travels and, you know, looking at properties, you know, visiting friends, new and old, all over the country. We have Iowa City that we want to tackle at some point with, you know, Nikki and Robert.
Yeah, for
and,
sure. Yeah, that's a city we want to go
like,
visit.
We want to go back to Covington
We
with
definitely
Bird
do.
and Jenna.
Yes, they
We
send
wanna-
us updates all the time about what's
Yeah.
happening. I'm like, wow, we are missing such a good time.
And Parker's, you know, I mean, at some point, you know, Parker's like, hey, have you ever been to Knoxville? Like, I hear it's pretty cool. I'm like, as a matter of fact, we have, you know, so.
Yeah. So are you going to be less sassy on the road?
I just want to apologize for what I've done. Can I just stop there? I don't want to make any
there's
promises.
No promises.
Yeah, I don't want to make
There's
any
no
future
promises. Okay, so you're
Like-
just apologizing, but it could happen again, is what you're saying.
Okay, but at least I'm aware of it now. And
Oh, all right.
and the
That's
other
a
thing
step in the
is,
right
you
direction.
know, I feel like I was, you know, a little like handle this or do that, you know, and I was a little hard on you. And I think one thing that I've definitely learned on the road I know my list is probably like twice as long as yours at this point.
It's okay.
But I feel like you are probably like I haven't considered it up until like maybe the last week or two, but I feel like when it comes to errands or menial tasks or you know, paperwork or whatever, I feel like you're probably like, I haven't always realized that you're the type of person that likes to have a partner when you're doing that kind of stuff. And I haven't always been open to that. So I'm going to work on that.
That's really nice. Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like, because I can tell you, just, you know, since the last meltdown, I feel like you doing you and me doing me on certain things isn't really working for me. So
Really?
yeah, it's
Why? Okay, so we're just going to do a backstory really quick. And this is getting really off topic, but James and I had a huge fight in Mexico City and we didn't talk for probably 24 hours and we were no longer going to do the podcast. And he was going to take a flight back to Florida from Mexico City. And he was looking up flights and I told him I'd help him pack his bags and find him a cab.
yeah.
It was pretty bad. So we decided that to make things easier on both of us, we would each have our own tasks and we would no longer ask the other person for help. So I felt like that for 20 years of our relationship, I did everything. Actually, more than that. Like I did everything. And that's because he worked so much, even though I own my own business too. But whatever the case may be. When the trip started, I was actually really, really happy to have a partner again. Like that's how I felt. Like, oh my God, I don't have to do everything. Like he can do half the work now. Like, cause I felt like 80%. But what happened is that it's kind of unfair is that like I did make him do half the work, which meant like, he had to do half the Airbnb bookings. He had to do, half of maybe like the grocery shop when we're on the road, or I don't know, whatever it was, I made him do half of it. I was no longer the go-to person because I took myself out of the equation. I was always the go-to person. I mean, there are trips, and he could attest to this, where he literally showed up and I handed him a passport and told him where we were going.
That's true.
And he did nothing with money. He did nothing with money exchanges on trips. He did nothing with hotel reservations. He did nothing with the activities that we booked. He knew nothing about dinner reservations. I would hand him an itinerary. And anyone who's been on a trip with us knows I love itineraries. So I would hand everyone an itinerary.
No, you're right. There are plenty of trips where it's like I just showed up and threw the kids around the ocean or the pool or whatever.
And,
for a week.
Somebody has to do all the work to get you there. And I think I just made everyone's life very easy by doing that. And if you're running a household, you're the one doing it too, whether you're male or female. So I was just really happy when like we started this road trip that I could finally have a partner to do things with. But it became too overwhelming for him. And in Mexico City, he really had it with me because I just wasn't taking the bull by the horns anymore, because I felt like I didn't have to. Like I had a person that was with me. Why do I always have to be the one to go to the ATM and get the money? Why do I always have to be the one to like argue with the concierge because our room isn't right? Anyway, so then after he wanted to leave and go back to Florida, I was like, fine. And then he stayed. And then 24 hours later, we talked. And I just said, I think it's best that like you do you and I do me. It's worked out really well for me. So I don't know why it hasn't worked out for you.
Because you're not as like cuddly.
Oh, sorry.
I think you're, you think
I'm what?
You're still a little upset about it. And, it's like, I
It's
definitely
a different,
see,
it's just,
I wish that I had known that this was how you were feeling, because then I would have been like, okay, she's done it all these years.
You've complained so much on the road about you doing everything, and you've said that so many times.
I wouldn't say so much. That's not a good characterization.
You've complained quite a bit about doing everything.
We had a total of 3 in my experience, moments.
But that's
and
like
Mexico City was the worst.
But you hold it in, and you felt like, and the same argument has been that you've done everything. So now I just give you like, you do you and I do me. And that's not working for you now.
I don't think it's working for you either. You could say it is, but it's not. I guess I wish like we had talked about this at some point where it was like, there was just a gap in communication between the two of us. Like you were like, I can kick back. He's going to handle this, and there came a point with me where it was like the podcast, the dog, the Airbnb, like the 3 or 4 week stretch on the road where it was like, I got us to Louisville. I got us back to Texas. I got us here. I got us there, where finally it was like, one day I was like, can you book something? Like, can you? And I was super testy, and so Ben, after that, you're like, oh, okay. Like, you didn't, realize that I had felt like you weren't quote unquote pulling your weight or whatever. All I'm saying is, I recognize that, even though certain things are a hassle and I'd rather take a brick to the head than do certain things, I would prefer to do those over us having a parallel existence on a lot of levels,
So are you going to...
Am I apologizing?
No, I'm not even asking you. No, I was actually going to ask you, so are you going to start? So what I was going to say...
I'm going to stop bitching when you have like, hey, I need this thing. It's a PDF. Can you help me out? I'm going to stop bitching.
Oh, I literally was just going to say, so does this mean you're going to handle my DocuSigns?
I'm gonna handle your DocuSigns for the renters. Yes, I am. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be good.
Oh my God. Okay, you've all heard it here. So, like, if this podcast is no more in a week, it's because he got mad about the DocuSign that I asked him to handle for me.
Oh my God. I know. It did break my heart when you said you were going to quit the podcast. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, well, it can't be Skip Town All-Star, so I guess it's over. Okay, there's no singular.
I'm still here.
I appreciate it.
I like it.
I know you
I
wanted
mean,
to like punch me, so yeah, you did. You were angry.
Yeah, I probably did.
You're angry. I know you.
Yeah,
You're from Chicago. You're from the South Side. I know.
Yeah, so I probably did, but I didn't, and we hugged it out.
We did hug it out. So anyway, those are like the things I learned on the road for the most part. Do you have any others you want to include?
I do have quite a few more that I've learned on the road, but we are like well into an hour and a half. So I think I'm going to cut it off here and we could like maybe do another one. Because look, we're going to go on the road more. So there's going to be more things that we learn on the road. One thing I do want to say, my final one, I did not realize a dog can go 3 days without pooping.
Our dog is not compatible with our travel style.
Nope.
Yeah. She's just totally, and for the record, when we go off in the winter,
we are not.
I know so many people are so concerned about Roxy. Roxy's actually going to be staying in Florida with my brother and sister-in-law. So she's frankly happier at their house than she is ours. She
actually leaves our house. She sneaks out of our house when James isn't looking. Like when he's in the garage, she will run out and go to their house. And she paws at the door. Like she like, let me in. Please let me in.
Yep. She gets lavished with love over at their place. Oh my
gosh, she really is in lots of treats.
Yeah.
So,
but that brings up a good thing. So we are going to do a Florida episode coming up, and
we are.
Stay tuned, people, for the next episode because Ron and Vicky, brother and sister-in-law at large, are going to be on the podcast, whether they know it or not.
Yeah, they are going to talk about all things retirement community.
Yeah,
the villages.
Yeah. And, it should be a fun episode because they are so ingrained in the culture here.
They are.
And I'm sure they'll have a lot to say to me about my lack of willingness to retire.
Because they both retired really early.
They did.
So they
They're
keep
very
saying,
good with their money.
Yeah, they were.
Not like the Gordons.
Kids. Dad says there's money left. I don't know.
There's still
but
money
no,
left.
but they retired very early, and so they keep wanting us to like kick back and retire. But we've got a lot of years in us, and we've got a lot of money making years in us, and we love doing the podcast, and we want to see where this really takes us.
Yeah.
So no retirement just yet.
No retirement just yet.
But in the meantime, we'll play pickleball.
Pickleball and a Florida episode coming at you live.
Yes.
All right. Well, if you want to wrap it up, we're going to wrap it up.
All right. Empty nest.
Full tank. Thanks for listening to us spilling our hearts out on YouTube for all to see.
Bye.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.